work. We'll start off with our 6-minute questions from Michelle Rempel-Garner from the Conservative Party.
Thank you, Chair. I'll direct my questions to Dr. McCauley. So the University of Calgary has become a top 5 research-intensive university. Hearty congratulations. And that is a higher rank than many larger central Canadian universities. And the University of Calgary has done this, even though it doesn't have the geographic proximity that some of these other institutions would have to central Canadian business cores, or even access to lobby federal government folks involved in the research funding community. So I take from that while federal research funding is very important to the University of Calgary, my question is, would you attribute part of your institution's success to management of strategic objectives from a diversified portfolio of funding, that is industrial funding, philanthropy, mixed land use, in order to leverage the impact of federal research funding?
Thank you very much. We challenged the University of Calgary a few years ago as part of our strategy to combine our expertise from across all our different disciplines to tackle some of Canada's and some of Alberta's and some of Calgary's biggest problems that we faced. And we recognize that there's no one funding source that can do that. Working with the community, what we did is mobilized resources, mobilize the investment around excellence in particular areas, while taking care to ensure that we're attracting talent from around the world to help us provide solutions, but then partnering with our communities, which is very, very important.
Ed, you were my former boss, so I still feel awkward cutting you off, but I only have 6 minutes, so I'll try and behave. So can I take kind of a yes from that?
Yes.
That is excellent. Okay. So we're looking for recommendations here. Would you recommend that the federal government encourage research institutions who apply for federal research funding to diversify their portfolios in a similar manner in order to leverage research funding and get outcomes like skilled workers, intellectual property commercialization, et cetera?
So yes, our scholars do that. Our scholars recognize that we need diverse funding sources in order to solve the problems. And producing highly qualified personnel around you is something that's really, really key. And it's part of our review process in grant that are come forward to the federal and as well as other jurisdictions. So the training of highly qualified personnel, really, really important, producing new talent, new ideas.
Okay, so we've started to hear a lot about the concept of focusing on research excellence and merit as opposed to, let's say, another model that's based just on regional allocation. If we're going to define that, would you characterize outcomes like the training of skilled workers, knowledge translation, and commercialization of intellectual property within Canada as components of what the federal government should be classifying as research excellence or merit when looking at the allocation of research funding?
Yeah, those are some of the key components. I guess the real proof is the demonstration of impactful research and knowledge mobilization. We have big problems to solve, and institutions across Canada pull together to actually do that. So those are some of the components, but there are others in terms of making sure that we're creating those vibrant local or regional ecosystems to ensure that the talent that we produce actually have the ability to grow and promote prosperity.
So in terms of like looking at what would be established as research excellence in terms of a quantitative way of evaluating funding applications, that list of things that you talked about should be given consideration.
Yes, and it's part of our consideration. But the key thing too is, remember, research excellence is actually defined on the global scale. This is not, it defies borders.
Sure, it's a great point.
So it's great ideas that it can improve the world around us, and that world is very, very large. It's not just restricted to Canada.
So one of the things that I'm really proud of being a University of Calgary staff alumni is that the University of Calgary, particularly over the last 20 years, has really leveraged federal funds into more investments back into the institution, more investment back into research. In terms of a recommendation for this committee, would you say that the federal funding models for research should include ability to leverage federal research funds into the attraction of more funds into those research programs?
We have to have a clear sort of level of funding to promote excellence, to promote talent, to promote discovery. We need to be able to generate those ideas. We also then to look at programs in which we can combine resources to tackle some bigger problems. But individual scholarship and the support of individual scholars is key. That then we can mobilize that together to solve some of the bigger problems which require leveraging.
Right. And I guess what I'm getting at here is that there has to be a demonstrable value for money proposition for the Canadian taxpayer when we're doing this. I understand that basic research is important. It might not necessarily result in something right away, but we have to show that there is translation into the Canadian economy. So with that broader set of metrics that we've talked about, should those sorts of things be included in the allocation of research funding as opposed to sort of like non-defined metrics? Do you think that would give more public buy-in to these types of expenditures?
30.
I think that that would help. I think that we already do that, and the Granting Council presidents would probably be able to speak to that better in terms of what we incorporate in all of our applications. But we have to create that new knowledge, and then we have to mobilize it. We need all sorts of vehicles to make that happen along the way. And leveraging, gathering resources from other areas will be an important part of that mobilization. But the mobilization is important for Canada, and we have to tell that story.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Great round of questions. Now we'll move